I collapsed with a high fever and begged my parents to help pay for my emergency surgery. Mom replied coldly, "We're saving for your brother's new car." He laughed, "Try GoFundMe, loser." 2 weeks later, I walked into the family dinner and dropped a letter on the table. "I never needed you. Please," I said over the phone, struggling to keep my voice steady. "I'm in the hospital. I need surgery. I don't have the money." There was a long pause. I could hear my mom exhaling loudly, like I was inconveniencing her. "We're saving for Lucas's new car," she said coldly. In the background, I heard my brother laugh. "Try GoFundMe, loser." I hung up. 2 weeks later, I walked into the family dinner, dropped a letter on the table, and said, "I never needed you." Now they're trying to guilt me into forgiving them. Did I go too far? Growing up, it was always obvious I was second place. If there was a birthday, a graduation, a life event, Lucas, my younger brother, somehow made it about him. I'd get a polite clap for my achievements. Lucas got balloons and barbecues for showing up to work on time. I told myself it didn't matter. Families have favorites. It's not ideal, but it's common. Our house in Winchester, Virginia wasn't much: white siding, a sagging porch, and a backyard that flooded every time it rained, but it was home. My mom, Patricia, worked at a dentist's office, and my dad, Frank, had retired early from the fire department after an injury. Money was tight, but somehow, there was always enough for Lucas's newest obsession, whether it was hockey gear he used twice or the latest Xbox. I worked from the time I was 16, first bagging groceries at Martin's Food, then waitressing at Texas Roadhouse off Pleasant Valley Road. Every tip went into savings for college. Meanwhile, Lucas crashed 2 cars before he was 20, got fired from 3 jobs, and still managed to be the baby everyone needed to protect. I moved out the second I turned 18. Found a cheap apartment with 2 roommates, scraped together community college credits, and dreamed of being a nurse. It wasn't easy, but I was proud. Proud and exhausted. That summer, I started feeling sick, weird chills, stabbing pain in my side, fevers that came and went. I ignored it, chalked it up to stress. I was picking up extra shifts, trying to save enough to finish my last semester without taking on more debt. The night I collapsed, I was mopping the floor after a long shift. 1 second I was standing, the next, the world turned sideways. I came to with my manager, Tina, kneeling over me, a worried look on her face. She drove me to Winchester Medical Center herself, even though her shift had ended. Tests confirmed it: my appendix was inflamed and close to bursting. Emergency surgery was non-negotiable. I felt a sick wave of panic when they handed me the bill estimate. No insurance. No savings. No family to call, but I tried anyway. The phone rang 3 times before Mom picked up. "What's wrong?" "We're eating," I explained, haltingly. I told her I needed help. That it was serious. There was a long silence. "We can't help you, Melanie. We're saving for Lucas's new car," she said. I could hear forks clinking on plates. Like I was background noise. Then Lucas's voice cut through the speaker. "Try GoFundMe, loser." Mom didn't even scold him. She laughed a little, like he was being cheeky, not cruel. My throat closed up. I mumbled something, hung up, and curled into myself. Tina, bless her, pretended she hadn't overheard. I set up a GoFundMe from my hospital bed. Typed it up through tears. It was humiliating, but strangers, actual strangers, donated more than my own parents would even consider. Enough trickled in that the hospital agreed to do the surgery with a payment plan. It wasn't charity, I'd be paying for it for years. But at least I wouldn't die. Recovery was lonely. Tina came by when she could. My friend Marissa snuck in milkshakes and gossip magazines. My parents didn't call. Lucas didn't text. Not even a thumbs-up emoji. I lay in that hospital bed, stewing. Not in anger, not at first. In disbelief. In grief. I realized then that I was mourning something I never actually had. By the time I was discharged, I knew what I had to do. I wrote a letter. Took my time with it, choosing every word carefully. Not dramatic. Not angry. Just final. 2 weeks later, Mom texted about a family dinner. They were celebrating Lucas's new car. I decided that would be the last time I ever saw them. Walking into that house felt like walking into a stranger's home. Everything looked the same, the old couch, the battered kitchen table, but it felt hollow. They barely acknowledged me. Set the table, Mel, Mom said, not even glancing up from stirring spaghetti sauce. Lucas was sprawled on the couch, playing with his phone. I slipped the letter onto the center of the table and sat down. Mom noticed it first. Picked it up. Frowned. Dad wandered over, cracking open a beer. Lucas didn't even pause his game. Mom read the letter out loud, her voice rising as she realized what it was. You can't just cut family off because of one fight, she snapped. It wasn't one fight, I said, standing. It was a lifetime. Lucas snorted. You're so dramatic. I didn't argue. I didn't scream. I didn't cry. I just walked out the door. The slam echoed behind me like a starting pistol. I wish I could say walking out felt triumphant. Like a weight lifted off my shoulders, or a movie scene where the music swells and the heroine strides into a better life. It didn't. It felt like free-falling. I sat in my car for a long time after, hands gripping the steering wheel until my knuckles went white. I kept waiting for someone to come after me. To run out the door, shouting my name, begging me to come back inside. Nobody did. Eventually, I drove off. My apartment was dark and stuffy when I got home. I didn't turn on the lights. I just lay on the couch, staring at the ceiling, feeling hollow. The next morning, my phone was blowing up. Texts from Mom. I can't believe you would humiliate us like that in front of everyone. You're overreacting. Family isn't perfect. You'll regret this when you're older. Lucas sent a meme, some cartoon figure waving goodbye dramatically, and then LOL bye. Dad didn't say anything. That almost hurt more. For a while, I didn't respond. I needed space. I needed to think. I went to work, did my shifts, studied for my finals. Every spare second, I thought about reaching out. Maybe I was being dramatic. Maybe they weren't that bad. Then one afternoon, while I was folding napkins at Texas Roadhouse, Tina sat down across from me. You okay, Mel? I blinked. Yeah. Fine. You don't look fine. And because she asked, because she meant it, I found myself telling her the whole story. Start to finish. The surgery. The GoFundMe. The letter. Tina listened without interrupting. When I finished, she leaned back in her chair and said, very simply, sounds like they made their choice a long time ago. I blinked hard to keep the tears back. Maybe it took hearing it out loud. Maybe it took someone who wasn't tangled up in guilt and blood ties. But I realized she was right. They had made their choice. They just didn't like that I finally made mine. Life after that wasn't easy, but it was clear. The messages kept coming for a while. Alternating between guilt trips and insults. You'll die alone if you keep this attitude. Lucas's family. You should be happy for him. We didn't think it was that serious, okay? I stopped reading them after a point. I left the group chat. I blocked Lucas first, then Mom, then finally Dad. I started therapy. My school offered a few free sessions through the counseling center. It wasn't a miracle cure, but it gave me words for what I was feeling. Grief. Grieving the parents I wished I had, not the ones I actually got. I realized how many years I'd spent chasing scraps. How many moments I'd swallowed hurt to keep the peace. How many times I'd told myself, next time, they'll see me. There was never going to be a next time. Marissa moved in with her boyfriend a few months later, and I found a studio apartment in Stevens City. It was tiny, the kind of place where you could touch the fridge from the couch, but it was mine. Nobody there would mock me for getting sick or make me feel like a burden. Graduation came and went. I didn't invite them. Didn't even tell them. When I posted a picture on Instagram, cap, gown, big goofy smile, Tina was one of the first people to comment. Proud of you, kiddo. My heart squeezed in a way that hurt and healed all at once. One afternoon, about 6 months after the dinner, I got an email. Subject line, "Let's talk." It was from Mom. She wrote about how hard things had been without me. How Lucas missed me, I almost laughed out loud at that. How Dad was disappointed but still loved me. How no family is perfect and you have to forgive and forget. I stared at the screen for a long time. There was no apology. No ownership. Just a carefully crafted letter to make me feel guilty. I didn't respond. A few days later, another email came through. This one from Lucas. Hey, Mel. Can you co-sign a loan for me? Having some money issues. Let's put the past behind us. I stared at the words in disbelief. No acknowledgement of what happened. No apology. Just a request for money. I blocked his email. Money was tight, but I managed. I budgeted like a maniac. Took extra shifts. Cooked at home instead of eating out. There was something weirdly empowering about it. I didn't owe anyone anything. I didn't have to beg for help from people who thought my worth was conditional. And slowly, my life started to fill up with people who actually cared. Tina. Marissa. My co-workers at the hospital who threw me a tiny birthday party with a grocery store cake and a single candle. No drama. No guilt. Just love. As the months rolled by, the emails and messages slowed but didn't fully stop. Sometimes, out of nowhere, I'd get a text from an unknown number. Always vague, always heavy with guilt. We're still family. Blood is thicker than water. You'll regret this one day. Lucas is struggling without you. Every time, it reopened the wound just a little. But it didn't make me want to go back. I ignored them all. I blocked every new number, every fake account they used to check in on me. The thing about cutting off toxic family is that they don't want you back because they love you. They want you back because your absence forces them to look at themselves, and they hate what they see. I don't think my parents ever missed me. They missed the role I played. The one who kept quiet. The one who clapped at the right times. The one who made Lucas look good by comparison. Without me, the cracks in their perfect little family were probably a lot harder to ignore. Around the 1-year mark, I got a call at work. I was on my lunch break, sitting outside the hospital, eating a sad turkey sandwich when my phone buzzed with a number I didn't recognize. I don't know why I answered. Curiosity, maybe. It was my dad. Mel, he said, voice gruff like he hadn't really decided whether he was mad or sorry yet. We heard you got a job at Fairfax. Big hospital. Must be making good money. I said nothing, just waited. We're proud of you, he added awkwardly. It should have made me happy. It didn't. He launched into a story about how Lucas was trying to start a business, something about flipping cars, and he needed a little help getting started. A loan. Just a few $1,000s. I almost laughed. They hadn't changed. Not even a little. They didn't call to apologize. They called because they wanted something. When I didn't answer right away, Dad cleared his throat. I know you're still upset. But you can't just turn your back on family. I finally spoke. You turned your back first, I said. My voice was calm, but inside I was shaking. That's ancient history, Dad said, like it was nothing. Families move past stuff. I did move past it, I said. You're the one still standing in the wreckage. I hung up. I sat there for a long time after, feeling sick and shaky and sad. It wasn't easy. Even after everything, part of me still wanted their love. Still wanted to believe they could change. But they weren't interested in changing. Only in what I could give them. Around that time, Tina offered me a promotion. Assistant floor manager. Better pay, longer hours, more stress. I almost said no, fear, maybe, or old habits telling me I wasn't good enough, but then I thought about that hospital bed. About the GoFundMe. About sitting alone in my car after walking out of family dinner. I said yes. It was hard. Some nights I came home so tired I couldn't even take off my shoes before collapsing into bed. But it was mine. Every dollar I earned, every late night shift I survived, every patient I helped, it was mine. Not something my parents handed to me with strings attached. Not something Lucas coasted into because someone else paved the way. Mine. Meanwhile, word trickled back through the grapevine about Lucas. Winchester wasn't a big town. People talked. Lucas had lost another job. The business idea flopped. He'd wrecked the Mustang 6 months after getting it, wasn't even his fault this time, according to Mom. They started a GoFundMe themselves, to help a young entrepreneur rebuild after setbacks. I didn't donate. I didn't even click the link. It wasn't out of spite. It wasn't revenge. It was peace. True peace. The kind you only get when you finally understand that some people are better loved from a distance, or not at all. Still, there were moments when it stung. Holidays especially. Scrolling through social media and seeing people post pictures of family dinners, matching pajamas, stupid corny group selfies, it hurt in a way that was hard to explain. Not because I missed them, specifically. I missed the idea of family. The version I'd built in my head. But real families, the ones that love you for you, not for what you can do for them, they exist. They're just not always the ones you're born into. About 1.5 years after that last call from my dad, I realized I hadn't thought about my family in days. Maybe even weeks. Not in the background buzz way I used to, not in the way that made my stomach tighten when a random number popped up on my phone. Just, nothing. It scared me a little at first. It felt like letting go of the last little thread tying me back to them. But the further away I got, the lighter I felt. Meanwhile, life filled up in ways I hadn't expected. Tina and I got closer. She wasn't just my boss anymore, she became the kind of person I could call at midnight when my car wouldn't start, or when I needed someone to rant to after a long shift. Marissa and I stayed tight, even after she moved in with her boyfriend. Some weekends we'd meet for coffee at Hideaway Cafe downtown, talking about everything and nothing. Safe. Easy. For the first time in my life, relationships didn't feel like I was constantly auditioning for love. They just were. One chilly Saturday in October, Marissa dragged me to a pumpkin patch just outside town. I didn't want to go, I had work to catch up on, laundry piling up, but she wore me down. The place was crawling with families. Kids in puffy jackets screaming about cider and corn mazes. Couples taking selfies with sunflowers. I felt a familiar pang. That old loneliness. But then I looked at Marissa, laughing at a goat trying to eat her scarf, and it hit me, I had a family. Maybe not the kind you post about on Facebook with matching outfits and hashtags. But real. Chosen. At one point we ended up sitting on a hay bale, sipping lukewarm cider, talking about nothing important. That's when Marissa said it, offhandedly. You know, you're the healthiest person I know. I choked on my cider a little. Me? I said, wiping my mouth. I'm a mess. She shrugged. Yeah, but you know you're a mess. You're working on it. Most people never get there. I didn't know what to say. So I didn't say anything. But the words stayed with me. Of course, life wasn't perfect. There were hard days at work. Grief that hit out of nowhere. Nights when I lay awake wondering if maybe, just maybe, I'd made a mistake cutting them off. But every time I remembered that hospital bed. Alone. Sick. Terrified. And the memory would steal me. That wasn't family. That was survival of the fittest. Around Thanksgiving that year, I got a handwritten letter in the mail. The envelope was smudged, my name scrawled across it in familiar messy handwriting. It was from my mom. Inside, there was a card. A turkey wearing a pilgrim hat, cartoonish and tacky. No apology. No acknowledgement. Just, thinking of you this holiday season. Hope you're well. Love, Mom and Dad. No return address. I sat on the couch holding it, feeling nothing. No anger. No sadness. Just a kind of distant pity. They hadn't changed. They probably never would. And for once, I didn't want them to. I didn't want the old cycle back, hope, disappointment, pain. I wanted peace. I slid the card back into the envelope, tossed it in the trash, and went to meet Marissa for coffee. A few weeks later, another message found its way to me. This time from Lucas. An Instagram DM from a new account, he'd been blocked on his old one. Hey. You should come home for Christmas. Mom's been crying about you. Dad says he'll pay for your ticket. Attached was a blurry photo of the family Christmas tree, same as it always looked. Overdecorated, way too many clashing ornaments. I stared at it for a long time. Not because I was tempted to say yes. Because for the first time it didn't even feel like home. It was just a house. Full of people who had shown me exactly how much, or little, I mattered. I didn't answer. Blocked. Deleted. No ceremony. No anger. Just peace. At the hospital, things got busier. Promotions came slowly. Raises were smaller than they should have been. Sometimes patients screamed at me for things I couldn't control. Sometimes I cried in the supply closet during lunch breaks. But it was mine. My life. My choices. My battles. No one could take that from me. On a random Tuesday evening, months later, Tina cornered me in the break room. Got a minute? She asked. I nodded, exhausted but curious. She handed me a folder. Inside was a brochure for an internal scholarship. Paid nursing specialty training, fully covered if I wanted it. You've earned it, Tina said simply. For a second, all the old doubts flared up. Not smart enough. Not good enough. Don't deserve it. I heard the old voices, Mom's sighs, Dad's shrugs, Lucas's laughter, rising in my head. Then I looked at Tina, steady and certain, and I realized those voices weren't mine anymore. I smiled, real and shaky, and said, "Thank you. I'll think about it." And this time, I meant it. I applied for the scholarship that night. 2 weeks later, the email came through, "Congratulations." For the first time, opportunity wasn't something I watched other people get. It wasn't something I envied from the sidelines. It was mine. I picked up extra shifts to save for the transition. Bought new scrubs. Took a long, hard look at my life and decided I wasn't going to just survive anymore. I was going to thrive. Meanwhile, life back in Winchester was falling apart, not that I was keeping tabs, but in a small town, you hear things whether you want to or not. Lucas's GoFundMe flopped. He blew through what little money he raised. He moved back in with my parents, who were struggling to pay their mortgage after Dad's pension took a hit. Mom started working more hours at the dental office. Dad picked up part-time work doing security at the mall. Their Facebook pages, once full of smiling family photos, slowly dried up. No more big holiday parties. No more humble bragging about Lucas's business ventures. They looked tired. Bitter. Angry. One day, about a year into my new specialty training, I ran into an old neighbor, Mrs. Whitaker, at the grocery store. She cornered me by the apples, as small-town ladies do. "I heard you're doing big things up north," she said, beaming. I smiled politely. Trying my best. She leaned in conspiratorially. Your parents are real proud, you know. Bragging to everyone. Tellin' folks you're sending money home now that you're a big shot nurse. I blinked. Excuse me? She laughed. Oh, you didn't know? They're telling everyone you bought them a new car. Help pin Lucas out too. Real family loyalty, they said. I stared at her, stunned. They were lying about me. Using my success to prop themselves up, the same people who left me to beg strangers for life-saving surgery. The same people who laughed at me when I asked for help. Mrs. Whitaker patted my arm. You're a good girl. Don't let them take too much. I smiled, tight and cold. Don't worry, I said. They won't get a thing. That night, I sat at my kitchen table, thinking. I could have let it go. Could have walked away, again. But some things deserved answers. So I drafted a letter. Not angry. Not cruel. Just, final. I wrote about how proud I was of myself, and how I owed none of it to them. I thanked them, sincerely, for teaching me what not to tolerate. What not to become. I attached copies of the hospital bills they refused to pay. Screenshots of the GoFundMe donations, strangers who helped when my own family wouldn't. I printed out the scholarship acceptance letter. My nursing certification. Photos of my new car, bought and paid for, every last cent, by me. At the end, I wrote, you can continue telling whatever stories you need to make yourselves feel better. But know this, I owe you nothing. And I never will. I mailed it certified. Signature required. 2 weeks later, I got the confirmation slip back. Signed in my mom's tight, angry handwriting. They never responded. No calls. No texts. No fake apologies. Just silence. Perfect. Life kept moving forward. I finished my specialty training. Got a raise. Moved into a better apartment, one with a little balcony where I could drink coffee in the mornings. Made new friends. Went on a few dates, nothing serious yet, but it felt different this time. Healthy. Safe. No begging for love. No auditioning for scraps. Just me, standing fully in my own life. Happy. Whole. Free. Sometimes I think about them. About Lucas sitting in that sagging house, wondering why no one's coming to bail him out. About my mom telling herself she did her best, even as the walls crumble around her. About my dad realizing too late that silence speaks louder than shouting. It's not hate I feel. It's not even sadness anymore. It's peace. Because the best revenge isn't screaming or fighting or proving them wrong. The best revenge is living a life so good, so full, so far beyond anything they ever imagined for me, and not needing them to see it.